Hello YouTube, welcome to Livefire, our weekly show on Hangfire TV. I'm Ken.
I'm Cosmo.
And I'm Jeremy.
This week we're going to talk about personal defense.
And before we get started, there's something that I've been wanting to say. Now, we all know what happened on Saturday or Sunday morning in Orlando. There was a gentleman that went into a club with multiple weapons, and
I wouldn't even call him a gentleman.
Yeah, that's
true.
Too nice a word.
That is true. And I'm not going to utter his name because he doesn't deserve that satisfaction. Now, what really pisses me off about this whole thing is within 6 hours, there were already politicians all over the news calling for gun control. Now, the part that pisses me off about is the bodies weren't even cold yet. They hadn't even been taken out of the club, and they're already saying, we need gun control. This isn't about gun control. It never has been. This is about the country letting in Muslim terrorists into our country. And the fact that pisses me off the most about this guy was being watched by the FBI, was interviewed twice. He was an armed security officer in Florida, yet he was still able to perpetrate this after being watched by the FBI. Don't you think at that point maybe they should have been, I don't know, something in Nick saying that he's not allowed to purchase a firearm? And, you know, just because he used a rifle to do it doesn't necessarily mean that my rifles are a bad thing, you know? And I'm sorry that it happened, and it's a horrible episode. But you know what? Ken, Cosmo, myself, we're responsible for our own protection. Not the cops, not the government, because you know what? The cops can't be there all the time. It's going to take them 5 minutes to get there to help protect you. And you know why the reason cops carry guns is to protect themselves, not to protect you. So the point is, protect yourself. Don't be a fucking statistic. Protect yourself. Do what you need to do to protect you and your family, because you know what? No one else is going to do it for you. And I'm done.
That's it?
That's it.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, what he said. Protect yourself, because no one else is going to do it.
Agreed. You have to protect yourself and your family and your friends.
Right.
And your friends.
I'd never admit it to these two,
your
but
dog.
I'm doing it now. I take a bullet for one of them.
I agree with that. There's
Well,
a select few that I would do that for.
What? What was that?
Don't worry about it.
No, it was a joke.
I know I didn't hear you. It's not funny if I don't get to hear it.
So let's dive into some of our bullet points for today's assignment or today's episode. So Ken, why don't you go and start?
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of an assignment if you think about it.
Yeah, it really is.
We're going to educate you.
Because this wasn't planned because of what happened this weekend. This was actually already pre-planned. So we're just rolling along with it. It's good timing, I guess.
Or horrible timing.
Yeah, horrible timing, but you get what I mean. So I figured maybe a good way to start this would be to go over our EDCs, our everyday carries. What do we carry to keep ourselves safe and our families? Cosmo, why don't you go ahead and start?
Well, I've had my CPL for 6 years, and I didn't actually carry a gun very often for the first year or so of that, until I had experienced some like mild road rage incident where some guy was standing out of the window of his car, like screaming at me so loudly that spit was flying out of his mouth, and the only thing I could think was, why the fuck don't I have my gun with me? So I carry a Walther PPS 9mm just about all the time. If I'm not in my office at work, it's pretty safe to say that I've got my gun with me. I also carry one of these assisted open cricket knives. I use it for opening boxes from Amazon mostly, but you know, I wouldn't be afraid to open something else with it if I had to. I also carry a spare magazine, so about 13 or 14 rounds. Hopefully that's enough to make it through whatever the universe decides to throw at me.
for an everyday or not, I shouldn't say everyday, for an incident where you might have an issue where you have to utilize your carry firearm, if you need more than 6, 7 rounds, you're probably in some deep shit.
Yeah.
And you're probably only need 1 or 2, maybe 3 to stop the threat.
That's assuming you can hit something, because cops empty entire magazines at people all the time and don't hit anything.
Well,
Cops also empty entire magazines hitting people, and it doesn't stop them because they're jacked up on drugs or whatnot.
that's very true as well.
So, of course,
And also,
you know, most police exercise a little bit of discipline on their shot placements, where I don't know about you two, but I wouldn't exercise placement.
you know, the other thing about what you just said is, in most confrontations like that, you're going to be within 3 to 4 feet of the person. You're not even going to need to use your sights. It's going to be a point and shoot kind of situation. You're not going to have time to draw, get a sight picture, squeeze off a round. It's going to be quick, done within 5 to 10 seconds, and it's just going to be point shooting. There's not going to be any sight picture, none of that stuff. So in reality, when you practice in a self-defense situation, that's the way you need to practice. You practice how you would react if you were going to be in that situation.
What about yourself, Jeremy? What's your everyday carry?
I carry a Glock Model 27 inside the waistband holster. It's a 40 S&W. It carries 9 rounds in the magazine.
Woo!
I carry Winchester Ranger 180 grain jacketed hollow points. And these things are the size of dinner plates. These things are fucking huge. Excuse my French. And they will stop a threat. Not that I've ever had to do it, but there is I've never had an issue like Cosmo was talking about where I had a situation where someone got to the point where I thought I needed my weapon. However, there were some incidences when I was in private security that I've got into some sticky situations where I'm glad that I have had a firearm in case I needed it. I also carry a Kershaw assisted open knife. Like him, it
Check
mostly
your
opens
local
boxes.
laws. They're
Very
legal in
true.
Washington.
That's true. Assisted open knives are legal in Washington, but not maybe in your state. Check your local laws. Same thing with concealed carry. Your laws differ. Make sure you check your local laws. And I've been carrying for probably close to about 6 years now. I carried prior, stopped carrying when I had a child, but then when crazy stuff started happening around the world, I decided it was time for me to start carrying again to protect myself and protect my kid. Yeah, that's
pretty
my
much
go-to plan.
That's how I ended up with the pistol in the first place. You know, I was living in a condo that seemed like it was nice and secure. You know, it had a door on the outside that led into the hallway. And I said to my wife, who wasn't even into guns at the time, you know, she wasn't anti-gun really, but she didn't have them in her house growing up. And I said, as soon as we move out of here and get into a house, I'm buying a gun for home defense. And she said, okay. So I pretty much did it immediately rather than waiting until we moved.
Yeah.
And it's been all downhill since then.
Right?
Maybe uphill.
Well, yeah.
What about downhill?
I wasn't actually planning on carrying a gun at all. I ordered my first pistol from Gunbroker, and then the day after I got that one, I bought a concealed carry pistol and went and got my CPO.
And what about you?
My daily carry is a Ruger SR9C, subcompact 9mm, carries 10 rounds of 147 grain. These are federal HSTs,
Woo, that's what
affectionately known back in the day as the Black Talons. Of course, always carry one in the pipe, loaded chamber indicator, and a spare magazine. I agree with you on one incident. Excuse me. I agree on one point, Jeremy, where you're only going to probably need a few rounds, but I don't know. I'm kind of in that mindset that I don't want to have an issue. If I have a problem with the magazine, if I have a problem with the rounds,
I was gonna get into that. Yeah.
I want to make sure that I have a backup, so I carry a second magazine for that firearm. I also carry a assisted open um, uh,
Knife?
totally, yeah. It's just, I remember
Knife.
the brand. It's
Uh,
upstairs with the wife in the bedroom. Yeah, it's a knife. Um, and I started carrying mainly because I grew up in Tacoma, Washington, and
which
not
is a
for
super
me,
nice area
yeah, it's a great area.
if you want to
Yeah,
get
my mother
shot.
still lives there, and to this day, there's constant drive-bys in her neighborhood. So it was one of those things that once I started carrying, she started carrying. She was like, "That sounds like a good idea." So, and my wife carries as well.
And I'll be the first one to say, and you guys may or may not agree with this, women, learn how to use a gun. Learn how to shoot it, learn how to carry it, because you know what? A restraining order is just a piece of paper. If you have a problem with your ex, they're stalking you, trying to attack you, the police aren't going to be there to protect you. You need to protect yourself. Carry a gun, carry a big-ass knife, carry a taser, carry something to protect yourself. Not this bullshit rape whistle crap that they keep talking about, because no one's going to come help you. You are
Yeah,
responsible for your own protection. Carry a fucking gun and protect yourself.
It
Protect
is
your children.
it is fucking astounding to me how our society is now. People will be getting the shit beat out of them by like groups of people. Everybody just fucking stands there and films it with their phone and does nothing at
Yep.
all. It's incredible.
yeah, it's
Disgusting.
absolutely absurd.
Yep. So, um, so let's talk about carrying at work. So I'll start with that one. I can carry at work if I wanted to. The reason why I don't is because for my job, I go onto government facilities, and you cannot carry a firearm on a government facility. Now,
Which means you
that
can't leave
is
it in the car either, right? Because you're
exactly
driving
because
on the.
if I were to go park on government property, the minute I have my gun in my car, I'm violating a federal law, and if I got caught, I lose my gun rights because it's a felony.
And you lose
So
more than just your gun rights. You lose
exactly,
your freedom.
exactly, which I think is the most absurd thing in the world that you cannot carry on government facilities. I can understand places like courthouses, federal jails, stuff like that, but honestly, if I'm carrying concealed in a hospital, a federal hospital or a state hospital, who gives a crap? Because stuff happens there all the time as well. There's been shootings, there's been killings at hospitals, the shootings at the VA clinics. I think military members on military bases, they're trained to use weapons. Why can't they carry a concealed pistol on a military base? I don't get that. It
From
doesn't
what
make
I
sense to
under,
me.
from what I understand, actually, they're not even allowed to possess a firearm on
Absolutely.
government property. Like
You're absolutely right.
we have APLM, Joint Base Lewis McChord here in Washington, and any of those soldiers that are in the barracks on the base have to keep their weapons off site, off the base. It's like,
Or
what good is that trained soldier with his personal weapon to be able to defend himself, his fellow soldiers, or his family if somebody was to get on the base
Yeah.
when his weapons are off site?
Yeah,
well, and
the
the other thing
MPs
is
are the only one. The MPs
the,
have the
the other thing
weapons.
is Ken, the other thing about that is that that's partially true. The other part of it is that if you live on base, either base housing, barracks, whatever, you can either keep your weapons off site, it's secure storage, or they have to be locked up in the base armory.
Don't know good if they're locked up, but that's
That's
beside
exactly
that's
right.
not today's conversation. But
Yeah.
yes.
Right. Sorry, we went off on a
So
tangent there.
yes, so
That never happens.
you have the ability to carry at work, but you don't because you go on to areas mandated and controlled by the government, which don't allow you to carry.
Exactly.
What about you, Cosmo?
Company policy forbids me from having weapons, so nope.
I'm kind of in the same boat with you. I work in retail, and my company does not allow us to carry firearms on the premises. We are allowed to have them on the premises in our locked personal vehicle, but what good is that going to do me? There has been one incident where an employee did carry his firearm at work because he was being threatened by someone, and he was terminated the following day.
Yeah, that's
That's,
honestly
That's company policy.
most companies have those rules though, right? I mean, it's
Yeah.
depends on how much you're willing to risk losing your job if you lean over and someone sees your gun poking out of your waist or whatever. It's not worth it for
Well,
me.
okay, so agreed. But on the flip side, I wish I could carry at work because I do work in a not so nice city. So there has been incidences where I have wished I would have had my firearm that they ended up turning out okay, obviously, because I'm still here, but they could have gone south, and I got that hair standing on the back of my neck tingling feeling that something was going to go sour. So, but I do have customers. But here's the funny thing: my company allows customers in the store with firearms, carried, concealed or open carry, but their employees are not allowed to do so.
Yeah, I think most companies are like that just because they don't want the liability if something happens. They're the ones that's going to get sued.
yeah, I agree with
Agreed.
that. I think that's mostly
Agreed.
what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, in fact,
Well,
the CEO of my company apparently told somebody that he was okay with it. Well, actually, I should say former CEO. His last day was Friday, uh, last a week and a half ago. He told somebody that he was okay with people having guns, as long as they were licensed or whatever, and they didn't want to get into the whole telling people they can't exercise their rights or whatever. But then the new company handbook came out and they had a big thing in there. No. So I'm like, oh well, so much for that.
yeah, that's a shame.
Well, and the other thing with me, and this is going to get into our next point, is that I also, because of where my territory is out of where I go, I also might end up going out of state, and there could be issues with CPL reciprocity. Like
Yes.
if I go to if I have to go to Oregon for work, because part of my territory is in Northeast Oregon, if I have my gun on me, there's a whole other can of worms to open up.
So speaking of cans of worms, we need to take a break for a second, and then you could tell us all about your worms when we come back.
My worms. I
Yeah,
got worms.
let's hear about it. Okay.
All
All
right.
right. Let's hear about your worms.
Okay. So now, wow, you just threw me off there. Thanks, man. So, anyways, Oregon. Reciprocity with Washington State has different rules and regulations. Each state can recognize whatever state they want, CPL, whatever. If I were to go to Idaho, Idaho has constitutional carry now. So,
What does
right?
that mean? What does that mean for those that don't
So that
know?
means you do not need a license to carry a concealed pistol. The constitutional right to carry a concealed pistol means you can carry one without a license. Now that's Idaho. I have a CPL for Washington, which means I can go to Idaho, of course, and Montana. Can't go south. Cannot go to Oregon. Oregon has totally different rules, totally different laws, and each we've talked about this before in other episodes.
Yeah.
That we can't go into Oregon because every single town, city, whatever, interprets their own rules and makes their own rules because there's no preemption clause in their constitution like there is in Washington, which basically states that the Washington state law, cities can't make them more strict. The law is more strict than the state's constitution or the state's laws when it comes to firearms. So they cannot do a ban on firearms in
Seattle.
any city limit. Exactly.
Because they're the fuckers
So,
that
like-
would do it.
Yeah.
Like Washington, they go by federal law, so that means that Seattle can't
To a point.
change that. They have to go by federal law.
Right. Well, they have to go by the state constitution, and the state constitution mimics federal constitution
Most of the
pretty damn clearly,
yeah.
except for a few exceptions. Sword barrel shotguns, machine guns, that kind of stuff. But most of the stuff, yeah, it's pretty common, or it's pretty similar to the federal constitution and laws.
So other states won't accept our CPL if the restrictions or the requirements to get one differ from us, right? That's what makes them reciprocate and accept CPLs from other states is if the requirements to get one are the same. And Washington
Yes.
is a shall issue state, which means unless they have a reason to deny you, they have to let you have a concealed pistol license.
Yep, and
Now,
they don't require any formal training
no
at all.
training, but I think Oregon does, and that's why you have to have a letter of good character or something from somebody to give to the sheriff or
No,
something,
sorry,
and that's
cut you off. There's actually a class that you have to take. That's an 8-hour class. And then you're given a certificate, and then you can get signed off by a sheriff of your county, and then you can have the permit.
right. So that's what I'm saying is it's got more strict rules of requirements, which is why they don't recognize our CPO, which is
It's kind of
unfortunate.
like you. Well, and one of the things, if you want to be able to carry, and I think it's 38 out of the 50 states or something, the Utah Advanced Carry Permit that you can get as a non-resident is the one to get, and it'll allow you to carry in like 38 out of 50 states or some crap. It might even be more now. I think it might be like 42 out of 50.
Keeping in mind that you still have to have a permit for your home state.
Right.
So for us, for Washington, we can apply and get our Utah
Yeah.
Utah concealed carry permit, but we still have to have a state license because it is our home state.
And you also
And
have to take
that
a
applies
class.
to all states.
Yeah, and you also have to take a class too. The Utah Advanced requires you to take a class. But you can get one as a non-resident, which in reality, that's not a bad idea because it doesn't cost that much money. And that'll allow you to carry in most of the states that we don't have reciprocity with.
So,
Which is a lot.
yeah,
Yes.
there's a lot, but there's some places
Oregon,
where it doesn't
Nevada.
matter. Some places don't let you have a concealed pistol license whatsoever. But
You mean like Chicago?
California? That's my
California
favorite
as a
example.
whole.
Yeah, the entire
Yep.
state.
Cook County in Chicago where 65 people got shot in the last like 4 days.
But
And
no
they
one
have the
talks
most
about it.
And they have the most strictest gun control laws in the country, minus Washington, D.C. And yet, I don't know. Let's see. You guys live in Seattle. How many murders were there in the last 3 days in Seattle?
I didn't hear about any.
Oh, and gun control's supposed to work, right? Whatever.
Yeah.
Fucking politicians. We need more gun control. We need more gun control. Gun control doesn't fucking work. You know who it only affects? It only affects me, you, and Ken, and any law-abiding citizen that has a gun. It doesn't make the criminals go, oh, they're not allowed to have them anymore. I'm just gonna turn my guns in.
Yeah.
Really? Are you stupid?
Yeah, they see the no gun sign on the restaurant and they decide they better not go in there.
Right. I'm not gonna
I don't
go
know
in
about
this.
you guys. Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but I don't know about you guys, but if I see that sign, I don't eat there anymore.
Nope, I don't go to that business
I
anymore.
have not
will
been
go
to
there.
Buffalo Wild Wings in probably 3 years
Yep.
when they instituted their no gun rule in their restaurant.
My
Now,
wife's
granted, I know that it is not a state law because you can go into any restaurant. I frequent Sherry's and Applebee's all the time, which, by the way, has a bar, but it is a separate area, and they allow weapons in the restaurant circle, but not in the bar center, which is the laws in Washington. As long as you don't cross the line into the bar area, you are perfectly fine to be in that portion of the restaurant.
Right.
That being said, that is exactly why there was no one carrying in that nightclub in Orlando, because
Yep.
Florida has a law that states that if a restaurant, bar, or club has alcohol at all in the building, no
Ooh.
matter where it's at,
speaking of alcohol.
you cannot carry your firearm inside that club or nightclub, club or bar. So even if they had the bar area roped off, saying, "Oh yeah, minors can come in all they want, but they can't cross this rope," people can't carry in that area prior to the rope, which
Right.
they can here in Washington State.
Right. And I can guarantee you that if there was somebody in that establishment that had a concealed pistol, that this wouldn't have happened, and there wouldn't have been 50 fucking people killed.
Well,
It would have been, the minimum maybe 1 or 2 people, because that guy would have been engaged in a firefight with somebody, and he probably would have panicked and killed himself. Because that's what they always do. They go to these places that are gun-free zones that they know it's just a target-rich environment. They're not going to have any opposition, and if they do have opposition, they either don't go or they end their own life because they don't want to get in a firefight with somebody.
Or
Hence
they don't want to get caught. They want to die before it's over.
well, that's part of it. But think about the mall shooting down in Oregon. One person got killed because a concealed carrier, who, by the way, that mall was a gun-free zone, but he carried in there anyway. He engaged the threat, and the guy killed himself before the police showed up because he was met with opposition. They don't want opposition. They want to kill as many people as possible to make a mark, to get their name out there, to glorify themselves, and that's all it is.
A soft target.
Exactly. That's why all these mass shootings happen in gun-free zones, is because there's no opposition there. Schools, movie theaters, malls, clubs, that kind of stuff. That's why this happens. There's no opposition, so it's a target-rich environment. Now, I swear to God, if you put a gun in every single school, and make people allowed to carry a concealed pistol wherever they want, then you know what? This shit's not going to keep happening. This is going to end. Plain and simple. That's the way that we fix this problem.
Yeah, so there have been instances where, CPL holders have gone stupid and shot somebody when they shouldn't have. But
True.
It's very, very rare compared to the other way everybody gets shot, basically.
And there has been those few incidences where concealed carry members have broken the local rules of an establishment, like Jeremy said about the mall shooting. So that wasn't a law. He technically couldn't. He was allowed to carry because he was permitted. He wasn't supposed to be in the mall with the firearm because it was against the mall's rules, the mall's private property. So all they could have done is ask him to leave. But
Right.
he didn't know he had it, and he luckily prevented a mass shooting. So
Dexter says hi.
Decto.
So
There was another. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, in Washington, those no gun signs, unless they're on a place that legally says you can't carry there, and there's only a small number of those.
What are they?
Bars, which we already mentioned.
Yep.
Outdoor music festivals.
Yep.
The secure zones of mental facilities or police
Hospitals.
stations, kind of. Yeah.
No, not even hospitals.
Airports.
I think it's mental hospitals.
Okay.
Well, airports
hospitals in general, believe it or
airports
not.
is federal.
And then and then state government buildings.
Is that I don't know.
Courthouses, stuff like that.
Yeah, courthouses. Well, yeah. When I go to a store and I see one of those signs, I just laugh. You go to IKEA and they've got a sign on the door that says "No weapons." I walked in, look over at my wife, and say, "Shows what they know." It's like if somebody
What's gonna stop them?
if somebody wants to kill people, they don't give a shit what stupid sign you put on your fucking door. Are you retarded? I'm going to carry my weapon to protect myself. If the law says I can, then fuck what your stupid sign says. You're lucky I'm even spending my money there in the first place. Like he said,
And here's the thing.
I haven't gone to Buffalo Wild Wings at all, ever. They built one right here, and my wife's tried to get me to go there several times, but I won't do it.
And you know what? Here's the thing. What stopped the massacre in Oregon? Or not Oregon, I'm sorry, Orlando. What stopped this guy from killing everybody? Gun. A fucking
Yeah, I know,
gun.
right? They say more guns won't stop anything, but the first thing they do is call people with guns and hope.
Why
One thing
did the Japanese never invade America? Because they said there was a weapon behind every blade of grass.
Yep, that's exactly right.
Duh!
I don't think
and the
that,
only thing
I
that's
don't
going to
think that
stop a bad
quote's
guy with a
actually.
gun,
I don't think that quote's actually real, but yeah,
it still
it's
sounds
true.
good though.
Right? I could have sworn I wrote it somewhere.
No,
Right. The only thing that's going to
written
stop a
down.
bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a
Good guy with a gun.
Exactly. So you know what? Just this whole rhetoric of gun control, it doesn't work. Washington, D.C., Chicago, California have high murder rates. Detroit, whatever. Whenever they have gun control laws, you know what? The only people it affects is law-abiding citizens. Because you know what? Criminals don't give a shit about the law. They're criminals.
Yeah.
They're not going to listen to the law. We have a gun ban in Chicago. Oh, I guess I can't carry my gat today. They're going to fucking carry it anyways. Who cares? That's why they're criminals. So stop telling me what I can and can't do to protect myself. I'm going to use the most effective weapon possible, and that is a concealed pistol. Plain and simple.
Only when you're out and on the go. Everybody knows pistols aren't that effective, right? Which is what we're going to talk about next week, right, Ken?
Well,
We're actually
yeah.
out of time.
Well,
Well, are we out of time?
Yeah, we're out of time.
All right.
I
guess
went off.
we'll-
I went off on my tangent too much. Sorry, guys.
Jeremy, you're
on
a
this one.
microphone hog.
Shit, whatever.
He's fired up and got a lot to say. I can't blame him for
And
that.
shit pisses me off. Oh, and then I was watching the news this morning, and they had fucking Hillary Clinton on there, and she started spouting off about the assault weapon ban and all kinds of crazy shit. And I just, you know what I did? I yelled at the TV. I said, "F you," and I flipped her off. I wish she should have could have saw that in real life.
Should have, could have saw it.
Oh, that pissed me off so much.
We can tell you're turning red.
So you're not
All right,
going to
everybody.
you're not going to vote for Hillary then?
Cosmo,
A
stop.
legitimate question.
No.
All right, everybody.
Happy.
Thanks for tuning in this week. Check back with us next week, where we will actually talk about that evil black rifle, the AR-15.
Ooh, it's so scary.
It is scary.
Have a good night, everybody.
Bye. Don't forget to subscribe.
Oh yeah, and like too.
You.
Yeah, hit that like button.
Right.
And comments. We like
Right.
comments. Tell me how much you like my red. Rate it 1 out of 10. Come on.
3. Oh,
2.
you mean, oh,
I think it was at least an 8 out of 9. I think or 8 out of 10. It could have been a little bit more colorful.
All right.
you didn't
Bye,
have a heart
everybody.
attack, so it wouldn't be a 9 or 10.
That's true.